moving ahead to week 17, February 7th to February 14th. That's Valentine's Day, 1971. I'm still on the kibbutz. There's lots of adventures going on 50 years ago. Taking care of cows, getting phone calls from home, learning to live with people on the kibbutz. Having a pretty good time, but it's getting a little old. A big deal about being away from home is getting letters from home and writing letters to home. Behind me is an aerogram. It was the cheapest way to send something home. And I used it over and over again across the world. And my family kept these, so I have them and I'm able to look at them and read them. In many ways, they are more descriptive of what's going on because I'm trying to sum stuff up for people at home so they'll get an idea of what I'm up to. So here you can see Kibbutz Hayot HaShachar, Golan Heights, Israel. It's also Upper Galilee, and I wrote that. My handwriting was pretty good, and look at those stamps. Here's the handwriting about my days in the kibbutz this week. And it's fun to see it, and I'm going to let you all share with me on it. And we're talking about the cows. It's great to herd them around. They're so huge and dumb. I'm usually through around noon. Then I go eat lunch, which is the big meal. Meat, potatoes, soup. Always as much as you want of anything. The generosity of the place is extraordinary. Considering the pay of 1 Israeli pound, 28 cents a day, they should be. They also give you 5 pounds every 2 weeks in coupons to spend in the store for essentials if you want to, and you can cash the coupons too. The people were a big deal for me on the kibbutz because it was a stationary social group. And I came to the kibbutz with my friend who I met at the kibbutz office in Tel Aviv, Jim Camper. And he was with me the whole time, basically up to this point, and I was enjoying him. But he went away for a week, and I was really enjoying the idea that I would have a room to myself. Because the way they did it was when I first got there, I had 2 roommates. There were 3 of us in a decent sized room with kind of cot type beds. And then one of them left, and it was just me and Jim. But Jim went away for a week, so I was hoping that perhaps the privacy of the room might do me some good in terms of working with the ladies that were around. And I was excited about that. While on the kibbutz, you did have to work. But the cool thing is they would move you around. So it wasn't quite as boring because at least you got different exposures. So this particular week, I was assigned to work with the cows. These are milk cows. And they had a little herd of them. And there was a kind of an old German type fella. I guess he was a Jew, but he was European. And he was kind of the master of the cows. He knew all about it. And I worked with them every day, and you learn how to move them around, and you actually kind of pushed them. And even though they weighed like 5 times as much as you could give them a shove and grunt at them and this and that. And then one particular day, while I'm working with the cows, one of the cows did something crazy. It jumped up into this kind of a sink type thing, this big open metal area, and jumped up into it by itself. And it wasn't supposed to be there, of course, because these cows were being herded over to be milked. Well, that was really crazy, and I didn't know what the hell to do, and neither did anybody else. Then all of a sudden, right in the middle of that, somebody comes down and says, "Hey, Steve, you have a call from the United States." Well, that scared the hell out of me, thinking, what is going on? Is something bad? Because I had only talked to my folks one time, and that was back in Fez, Morocco, and it was like a month ago or something like that. And here I am getting a call in the middle of this crazy thing with this cow jumping in this big sink. So I go there and wow, it does turn out to be my family. And it was a lot of fun. and I got to talk to him, and I was thrilled talking to my sister and my brother Alvin and his sister Deborah, my little sister, and my mom, because they lived together at home in Oak Park. And I finally got out of there, and they told me, hey, they're going to send me some money. So I was feeling pretty good. And I get back to the cows. This cow is still sitting in this giant sink thing, and they couldn't figure out a way to get it out. So we start moving these conveyor belts around, things that hung from the ceiling, and we're putting a big, like a leather belt around the cow. We're lifting up, and this cow had this crazy, deranged look in its eyes. Like the cows, they didn't really have this look. They were kind of cool. But this cow was getting crazy. And it looked like it was ready to lead a cow revolution. Well, somehow we got the cow out and the cow calmed down. The other thing about the cows you should know is it was the rainy season. And that meant in the wintertime there, where they got most of the rain, that the rain was coming down and these cows would be pooping all over the place. And the water with the rain and the cow poop formed these kind of rivers of cow shit. And I'm wearing these rubber boots. It went up to about 4 or 5 inches above my ankle, but the flow of the river of cow poop was going above my boots onto my pants. You know, it sounds pretty bad, but it was no big deal. We kind of laughed about it because there was kind of straw in there. It didn't stink that bad because cow manure somehow or another just eat vegetables and things. So it was not that big of a deal. But the rivers of shit were kind of crazy, but I did really love these cows. And then, of course, you would have to deal with the baby cows, the calves, and they were kind of not quite as docile. They're a little wilder, but you could control them. You put a hand on their butt and a hand on their head and you move them around, even though they basically weighed as much as we did too. One night, the kibbutzniks put on a big party for us volunteers. And what was the thrust of it? Well, one of the guys, a guy named Chofshi, he had shot a wild boar roaming around the edges of the kibbutz. And they brought it back. And even though, pig is really not kosher, but as I said before, these folks were not religious at all. There was no visible sign of the Jewish religion on the kibbutz. And they took this big pig, this boar, and they put it on a spigot and they started cooking it, and they roasted that sucker on a big fire for hours and hours and hours. And they served it up. It was kind of delicious. And that was a real fun party with a wild boar. I just imagine that wild boar walking around, had tusks on it, and they put the whole thing on the fire so you could see the pig cooking. And then they would cut pieces off of it and serve it up. It was a fun party. Although it's easy for me to act like a big shot, and here I was away from home for some months at this point, I really was missing my house. I was missing my family. I was missing my friends. I was missing the United States of America because these foreign cultures just weren't what I was used to, although I enjoyed them. And then one day I had 5 letters forwarded to me from Tel Aviv, which I had used as my address because I didn't know where I was going to be. And when they came, oh my God, it was a torrent of emotion. It was really fun to read them. And of course, I started sending letters back as well as I could because I did have the time and the relaxation of being in a fixed place for once. And this was a very mellow part of my time at the kibbutz. So here I was spitting out letters that I wouldn't have done normally. Of course, part of it was a lot of downtime. I was drinking a lot. There was a little bit of hashish filtering through, but that was kind of tough to get. We had to kind of sneak around on that. But it was really a social situation with the people from all over the world, but it did not really replace the fact of people that you knew your whole life or for many years and that you loved and had a deep relationship with. So I was starting to think, it's getting to be time to hit the road again because this home away from home is really not my home. Week 18 is coming up, and that's another week on the kibbutz. My buddy Jim Camper comes back with a bunch of hashish, so we were partying a lot that week. And we just go on kind of biding my time, but I'm starting to think about where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. And one of the things that I was very interested in doing was following my script. I was thinking ahead, okay, where am I going to go from here? I got to get out of Israel, but I got to spend some time in Israel before I leave it, of course. And then how do I go to Cyprus? How do I get there? How do I get back to the road? How do I get back to the hippy trail, which takes you from Istanbul to Kathmandu? And I'm dreaming about Afghanistan and some of these places that are described in what Paulo Coelho calls the invisible post. And this is the way we young people were communicating. We had these kind of fables and legends and things that we told each other about, and you took them as true because you had no reason and no other information that was any better. And boy, the things I relied on to go certain places because I heard they were cool, well, they usually turned out to be right, but it was kind of risky. So stay tuned for next week when another week, week 18, into Kibbutz and thinking ahead to getting the hell out of there, frankly.
The days fly past as the calendar nears the end of January. I'm passing time with the routine of my daily schedule. Up at 6, start work a half hour later, check in at work assignment, put in an 8-hour day with a good lunch, play basketball, enjoy a great dinner, go to sleep, get up, and do it all over again. Something heavy and very outlandish is taking place in my head and in my recurrent thought processes. I have this feeling, this instinct or intuition that the life I live is controlled from some other dimension. I sense vibrations of energy from somewhere else all the time. It's hard to pin down such a nebulous concept, but I'm haunted by these thoughts. Am I here because I chose to be here on the wandering journey, or was it going to happen anyway? Do I control my destiny and fate, or does fate control my days?